Oscar winner Mira Sorvino stars as Jean Crandall, a 40s era actress in Ryan Murphy's new Netflix series Hollywood. I'm Tony Ruiz of Gold Derby. And Mira, when I look at the character of Jean Crandall, there's been so many think pieces, I think, written about is because there's real people in this series and then there's these imaginary characters. And a lot of people have thought that Jean Crandall is a real actress, which of course she isn't. So who did you base her on? Because there seems like there's elements of a lot of actresses from that era. Were there any particular that you zeroed in on?
Yes. I think probably people get confused because her name sounds like Jean Crane, but she is a fictional character. And when I was offered the role, I was told that she was sort of like a Lana Turner-ish type of character. And so I watched every single Lana Turner movie I could get my hands on and documentaries and read all these biographies about her. And then as the show evolved and I got more of the material, I realized she wasn't quite as ironclad as Lana Turner. I mean, Lana Turner is a winner. Lana Turner is a survivor. Jean is a little softer, a little bit more vulnerable, hopeful, a little goofy. You know, I'd say Lana Turner was the main stylistic influence in terms of the vocal patternings and the physicality, but the personality really evolved on its own because it came from the writing and it came from the kind of innate goodness of Jean. You know, she's always trying to give a kind word to the younger actors and sympathizing with, you know, Laura Harrier's character, Camille, and siding with her against the racist director, and then encouraging the young Rock Hudson in his screen test, which he has spectacularly blown. But so she's a kind person and not just always errs a little bit on the side of the silly. She's just a little bit the butt of the joke. She kind of knows that, but she's smart enough to know it. And she ultimately has a sense of morality, which kind of kicks in, and she decides, you know, she wants to make her life right after the disastrous consequences of her tryst with the studio head. Although that's been a 10-year affair, so it's yeah. But you know, I loved her. I really loved playing her. It's sort of my sweet spot. Traditionally, I think my very best characters that I play are funny, but a little daft, a little like they're not stupid, but they're unusual people. You know, they're a little left center and they're vulnerable, but they're also funny. They're a little ridiculous, but they're also someone that you can empathize with. And those are my favorite people to play for some reason. And she falls right into the middle of that. And the spectacular part was I got to feel like I was living in the 40s. I mean, when you stepped foot onto that set, everything was done to period perfection. So when we were doing the films within a film and you were on the soundstage, they had all the period lights and the period cameras and all the crew members in period costume. And you just felt like you were living in this other time. And that kind of went well with Jean's, you know, she's got that kind of hopeful thing going on, you know, where it's right around the corner. The happy ending is right there, you know, and she's just so, you know, she's almost milk-fed on the American dream of the happy ending. And meanwhile, she knows she's on this very precarious ledge of, you know, falling into obscurity and unemployment and you know, being past her expiration date in terms of the, you know, the norms of the time for using actresses in leading roles. And then everything flips and she's given this incredibly beneficent hand up where she gets to be really valued for her talent and not just as like a type.
Well, and you talk about that vulnerability, and I think that's, to me, one of the most fascinating aspects of her is that, you know, she is, you know, clearly, at least when I'm watching the series, I saw her as someone who seemed to be, you know, so much more capable of what she was usually given. And then she gets herself into these vulnerable situations where it could go either way. So, but she gets her happy ending. And so when you're playing that, is the happy ending more fun to play, or is the vulnerability more fun to play?
Well, they're all mixed together because the vulnerability comes out when she is so shocked by the generosity of these two women, Holland Taylor and Patti LuPone. She has two scenes with Patti, Avis, and one scene with the two of them. And she just expects the status quo to occur, that she will be punished for her sexual crimes, that she will be put out to pasture because she's older, and that she has no more use. And instead, these women show this incredible kindness and wisdom and generosity of spirit, and saying, you have never gotten your due. We have a chance to do things in a new way based on what our insides are telling us to do, not what the number crunchers and the men in the suits are saying is going to make this a successful release. And here you go. Here's your shot that you've never really had. And that just so blows her away that out of a corner where she expected either crumbs or rejection, she's given this incredible gift. That moment of happiness and vulnerability is all commingled. It's just like the shock of receiving an unexpected gift of kindness and their faith in her. I just loved that scene with them in the commissary, where they tell her that they're going to give her this Lee Miller story movie, where she gets to play like a real strong, interesting, fascinating female character, rather than just another one of these blonde staples in one of their filler B movies that they make for a low budget to kind of, go alongside their big budget extravaganzas. So yeah, I guess it was fun, but they were the same thing in a way.
Yeah, and I also, one of the things that about those scenes in particular is it's women empowering women to get opportunities. And, this is certainly a revisionist take on what the 1940s were like. But I'm wondering, as somebody who's been in this business for a number of years, have you seen that same kind of paradigm shift in terms of women empowering women? And do you think the show kind of reflects that?
Well, I would say that the show reflects all kinds of people empowering other people. I think that, post the Me Too movement, honestly, the community that I found with the Me Too members, across the world, and then the Time's Up people that I've become close to, and there is a super sisterhood in that I never expected. I never expected so many people through their vulnerability to form strength together and to really reach out to each other and heal each other together and make bold strides to make permanent, lasting change for others. But I think you're just seeing it across the board. I think the fact that this story is being made is the very exemplar of these changes happening. Like that this is like a flagship show. This is the flagship show, I believe, for Ryan's deal at Netflix, or maybe there was one, I don't know if The Politician was before this on Netflix or not, but this one, was the highly awaited, product. And the fact that Netflix was like, great, and that Ryan was like, this is the story I want to tell, and that Janet Mock was like, we're going to tell this story, is an example of the times changing and of people making content that is representative, that is fair, that is breaking the norms, and that doesn't care about the old standards of what you can and cannot do in television and film.
Every single person I've talked to with Hollywood has said to a person that this was like one of the happiest filming environments, that everybody was so happy and got along. Was that, what do you attribute that to?
I think it all comes from the top. Everyone is delighted to be doing what they're doing, and they're doing it at a very high level, and everyone loves working for Ryan. And I think he sets the tone for the entire world of people that are faithfully coming back to his productions over and over. And this was my first dip in the pool of the incredible world of Ryan Murphy. But I hope it won't be my last, because it was like joyful, absolutely joyful. I couldn't have been happier on the set. I literally, the first day was actually, and I know this sounds silly, but I was crying tears of joy because I was like, oh my gosh, this is the most wonderful piece of material. I am so happy to be here. And I was just overjoyed, and it really moved me. And people were so kind, like every single member of the cast and crew are so thoughtful and welcoming and interesting, and the conversations that happen backstage and in the dressing rooms and in the hair and makeup trailer and between takes. No, that's some kind of telemarketer. They were just fascinating conversations, and people couldn't have been kinder to me. And I don't know, Janet Mock was an amazing director. I had her for several episodes. Michael Uppendale, Dan Minahan, like everyone was truly extraordinary to work for, in terms of like the directors. And Ryan directed the first episode, which I'm not in, so I didn't get to be directed by him yet, but his presence was always there. And he was there during the Oscars. I was able to come and talk to him during the Oscar ceremony episode 7. And it was just like a love fest. I don't know. When people have great talent and great vision, and they're good and kind and generous and empowering, like it's infectious, you can't help it. Ryan sets that tone and everybody follows suit. And I think he picks people that have that same mindset. It's a vibe, and that's the vibe you got to have to be there.
You were just mentioning the Oscar episode, which as an old movie nerd, I just eat up with everything in my being. And you having had some experience at the Academy Awards, both as a winner and as a presenter, I'm curious if it's been close to 25 years since you won your Oscar, and I'm curious if your thought, or you think that Hollywood's thought about the Oscars or just awards in general has evolved or changed.
I'm not sure what you mean exactly. In what way would you say?
It is the one of the things that they talk about in the episode and leading up to it is, you're going to get nominated for the Oscar. You're getting nominated for the Oscar. Is the Oscars and awards in general, are they still as big a presence in Hollywood as they always have been?
I think they are. I think they make an enormous difference to people's careers, people's hireability, what the town is talking about. I think, you can just see it evidenced in all the round of publications that are specifically devoted to the awards races. And I think they've still got an enormous sway, for the good or the bad. Like they are, it's what the industry deems is noteworthy, is important, is what you should be watching. And with so much content these days, I think that they become even more important because there are so many different places to put your eyes. But if you are nominated or your project is nominated for something, then I think the laser focus goes to that project and people pay attention to it.
Mm. Yeah, that's so interesting about the concept of all the platforms that we have and how they're kind of changing the medium. With all of these opportunities, what kind of projects draw your eye? Because now there's all these outlets, so I imagine that there's many opportunities. What draws your focus when you're looking at a project?
It never really changes. It's always great material, great director, great cast. But these days I really am more excited about comedy than super darkness. Maybe because of COVID, maybe because of these dark times, I tend to shy away from things that are really, really heavy, or characters that I'd have to play that are super, evil or absolutely miserable. Because I think we all need a little lightness in our lives now, and there's nothing that is more soul brightening for me than trying to make people laugh. So when I do things that have this inherent silliness or lightness in them, with some crazy character, some crazy voice, some weird physical styling, I I am delighted. I am having the time of my life. So like when I did Modern Family, that was just so much fun, even though I was just kind of, a guest in their world. And, I played that Nicole Rosemary Page character for several episodes, but it was so much fun. And so I think right now I'm a little bit more attracted to the comedic pieces, but, the thespian in me is always going to be also drawn the really meaty stuff. But I can't tell you what it is until I see it. It's really a perfect thing where it comes across and then I'm like, oh, wow, this is amazing. Let's jump into this pool.
There's been rumors, and I don't really care if these rumors are true or not, that this show is going to become kind of like an anthology. And whether that's true or not, I've asked this question to several of the cast members. Is there a period or a section of Hollywood, of the film industry or the television industry or just entertainment in general, that you think would be rich soil for Ryan to take forward?
I mean, I think they're sort of rich and interesting. I mean, I think the 50s is also very interesting. I think you had this dichotomy of this sort of world of light and fluffy and glossy entertainment. And then you also started having these hard-hitting, kitchen sink dramas and, Elia Kazan and, Brando and all of the sort of the new realism in the acting. I think the 60s and 70s, with everything going on in the world in the 60s and the 70s, this sort of, once again, a new grittier mode to acting. Some of the, the greatest films are coming out of that era. Some of these super strong actors are having their starts, the Nicholsons, the De Niros, the Cassavetes collective. So I don't really know. I would think, 50s, 60s, 70s, but only Ryan knows what's in Ryan's mind. So I sure hope that there is a season 2. I think it would be incredible. But I will leave it to him to decide what, and even beginnings of cinema, even like, the 20s, the sort of silence into the talkies in the 30s. That's all fascinating too.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's just it's a wonderful series, and it's, I think, so necessary in these times that we're living in, and it's such a wonderful performance. And everybody go to goldderby.com, make your predictions for the Emmys, and stay tuned for more interviews throughout the season. Mira Sorvino, congratulations. A real great pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure.